The last topic is the topic of today, what we're doing right now to compare satellite images of pre- and post-war in the Gulf to see what had actually happened to the surface of Kuwait. And this is a view from NOAA satellites of the Gulf region. And the Gulf is called the Persian Gulf by Iran and by most people in the West, and it's called Arabian Gulf by everybody in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Egypt and places like that. So I'll have to be very careful where I'm giving lectures to name this Gulf the Arabian or the Persian. So right now I'll just call it Gulf. So, so now this is all of that is Iran, and Iraq is right here, and Kuwait is just a little tip right here in the northwest side of the Gulf. All of this is part of Saudi Arabia, and this is the island of Bahrain, and this is the peninsula of Qatar and the United Arab Emirates and Oman. So there are a whole bunch of countries that are connected. All of it desert. All of it has these numbers that vary between 10 and 50 as far as aridity is concerned. And as soon as the liberation of Kuwait began, you remember the wildfires in Kuwait right here. I'll show you the Landsat image of this area right after that, where you see in this image each and every white dot right here is a well, an oil well on fire. And all of these horizontal lines are actually the sensors on the Landsat satellite turning themselves off because they're measuring temperature so high that they think that there is nothing on Earth like this. So they think there's something wrong, so the sensor actually shuts itself off for a while to correct and go back to measuring. And it's because of this incredible energy that was emitted from the well fires. All of this, the well fires created incredible storms or plumes, and these plumes covered a great deal of the land in Kuwait. This is a photograph that was kindly sent to me by my friend Jane Hodges, and where one can see that the direction of the plume, which is a little bit different from the regular direction from the north towards the southeast. And some of the shuttle images are very useful, as a matter of fact, because they were taken at times when we could not get images from Landsat or Spot. And that also shows the utility of when you have astronauts in a spacecraft and when you have the spacecraft at different altitudes at different times. So many of these things can be very useful. They add to each other. And when we looked at all of the data taken by Landsat and Spot and the shuttle and so on, we figured out that there is a whole region of the Earth that was affected by the plume that came from the wildfires, which is the blue line right here. And that area represents material that came in from the dust in the air due to all of the military activities and turning out a great deal of dust from the wildfires and from covering so much of that water by the oil spill. All of the material that was launched into the atmosphere with the wind, which is the plume from the wildfires and from the dust, actually affected the line of the monsoon clouds of India, or the Asian subcontinent right here. And what we have is a pressure zone that shifted that line southward, causing a lot more rain in the Indian Ocean and in southern India, causing very little rain for 2 years in Pakistan and northwest India, and causing also very little rain in Somalia and Ethiopia, causing droughts there, and no rains right here. So actually there was a great deal of regional meteorological effects that resulted from the Gulf War, and only God knows really what else happens, because when you move this high pressure zone that we used to be right here southward, then the cold pressure, the cold weather from the Mediterranean moved inland in here, and there was all kinds of snow in Jordan and Israel and even in Kuwait during the last 2 winters. So when that system moves down here, only God knows what else moves and so on, because it's all connected. So the regional effects may have had also some global effects that we really don't know about. This is an example of how much of oil was on the water in the Gulf. And that oil affected the desalination plants, and much of the oil was sucked out of the ocean and actually dumped into huge pools like that. And to these days, nobody really knows what to do with these pools now. That's oil that was pumped out of the Gulf water and now stored in pools in the deserts after they cover the desert region or the pool area with plastic so that the oil would not seep to the groundwater and so on, and they remain right here, pool after pool after pool, huge areas covered by oil that no one knows what to do with. The last item that I wanted to mention was the effect on the desert surface itself. The desert is a very fragile environment. It is stabilized completely when it is absolutely flat, because the wind really would like to move over a very flat surface where there are no obstacles. So as soon as, and that's why the desert is flat in many ways. So the wind creates a flat surface, and that flat surface is protected by a layer of pebbles, the size of a pea to that of a walnut, that actually armors the fine-grained soil beneath it from the action of wind. So the wind comes in, bounces on top of these grains or pebbles or cobbles, and leaves the soil alone. Now, when you remove that layer of pebbles, as in digging trenches and pits and hiding places for tanks and ammunition and so on, then you're actually disturbing the desert surface considerably by creating new sources for the wind to carry sand, and this sand accumulates and forms sand dunes. So right now there are all kinds of sand dunes blocking roads in Kuwait. That started from the war itself. So right now we're actually looking at all of the regions that may have been affected by the disturbance to the desert surface from these military activities on the desert of Kuwait, specifically so that we can figure out areas that need attention as far as remediation of the problem is concerned. And we're doing that by comparing satellite images taken before, during, and after the war, and making a map of the change and figuring out what that change is specifically. So with that, it is just another example of the kinds of things that we can apply space photography to in understanding the environment of the Earth, as well as those of the moon and the planets. And one of the things that I wanted to say was the fact that we in the sciences out there doing our work quietly, we also know that one of the most significant aspects of the whole thing is the ability to have these pictures available to us, and we know that we could not have that without having a bunch of dedicated engineers and scientists working within the NASA centers to make absolutely certain that these programs are achieve their objectives. And you can be certain that each and every item that we get out of your productive work, we will put it to great use, not only to understand the Earth for the basic science, but also to help people worldwide. Thank you very much.